Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about my experience with the differences between Persian music, Arabic music, and Turkish music. I'm really glad all you guys could join me today. Let me know how long you've been playing the oud for, or if you don't play oud, if you play something else. Let me know how long you've been playing and say hello. Let me know if you have any questions. We're going to get into this kind of thing, and first we'll play some music. Hi Jim, I got your email. Yeah, I haven't been able to respond to your email yet. I guess I'll answer your question here. Most of my students are all beginners, and so I don't think many of them would be inclined to do such a project. Possible, but yeah, I doubt any of my students would be up to the task. Hey Woody, thanks for joining. Let's talk a little bit about the differences, at least my experience, with the differences between Persian music, Arabic music, and Turkish music, and how it relates to the oud especially. So a little bit about my background playing the oud. I started learning the oud around 2002 formally with my oud teacher Hossein Behruziniya, who's a Persian oud player. And his style of playing is completely Iranian music, completely Persian music. And so it's a very different approach than Turkish oud players take and Arabic oud players take. And so I studied for him for about 5 or 6 years regularly. And before that, I was also a santur player. I played the Persian santur. It's a hammered dulcimer. The oud was my second Persian instrument that I took up, and eventually just became my primary instrument that I play. And so everything that I learned was from the Persian perspective. My teacher's technique is a bit different from the technique that Arabic players or Turkish players you'd see. Let's go through a little bit about some of the things that I noticed when I was learning Persian music, when I was learning oud, and then got exposed to Arabic oud. So first, let's talk about the tuning. The tuning of Persian ouds are tuned generally C, G, D, A, and then G most of the time, and C or D in the bass. Depends on the dastgah or the scale, mode, maqam that is being played. And so this G is very important to be played, to have. Because in Persian music, there's a very strong drone, and you need to often play what we call paye. Paye is a foot rhythm. So you often have the need for open strings to be resonant with the maqam that you're playing, or the dastgah, the scale that you're playing. So for example, if we're playing something in G, it's important to have that G because we're always going to reference that G. So that's important to have. Depending on the scale that you play, you may need to tune this to a D. Let's say you're playing in the key of D. See how the rhythm is very important in Persian music. We often, in between melodies, in between phrases, there's always a rhythm happening, and the instruments have to play that rhythm, and we hold on that rhythm for at least two cycles or 4 cycles. So we have a lot of 6 rhythms in Persian music. So there's always that 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6, dum da 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 dum dum da 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 da. A lot of our music, like maybe 80% of the music, is all in 6/8 or 6/16. So more faster 6 rhythms, 6 pieces are in 6/16. We also have a lot of 2/4. So rhythms like this. So we play a lot of oud like this. There's always that drone in the background. And so melodies happen and then rhythm happens. Melody happens and then rhythm happens. And melody is very, almost like geometric shapes. There's a pattern to it. There's a form to it. And often these melodies get repeated. These themes are created. And this is very different than Arabic music. Arabic music, the melody kind of continues on through the whole piece. It just kind of keeps on flowing. Different melodies happen. Yes, of course, there's repetition, but it's a completely different vibe. So for example, let's get into that later on. But anyway, we've got 2/4. In Persian music, you very rarely have 4/4 rhythms. For some reason, it just doesn't appear that often in the music. Whereas in Arabic music, you have a lot of 4/4, especially in the more popular or simple song varieties. So the rhythms are very different. The tuning system is very much the same as Arabic oud. We use the old traditional C to C tuning, and we also, in terms of reading the notation is the same. We read music the way that we have in Western music notation. You know, when you write G, it's G. When you write C, it's C. We follow that. So if you have a piece in one maqam, you want to transpose it to the same maqam but in a different key, you have to rewrite the whole notation to suit that. So those are some of the things. Turkish notation is very different from Arabic and Persian notation in that everything is transposable. They write the same way in the same key signature for one maqam. Let's say maqam bayati is always going to have certain accidentals written in the key signature, and if you need to transpose it to another key, you do it by transposing in your mind. So it's a bit different kind of approach. And there's there's no absolute pitch with the notation either. If you see an A written on the page, it could be an E, it could be an A, it could be what's the other key they often use? It could be a B. So it's very, very different. Anyway, we'll get into that too a little bit. So when I first got exposed to Arabic music, I was already playing oud for a few years, and I was getting into the more advanced stuff. And I encountered oud players like Farid Al-Atrash, and I was actually really turned off by the music at first. It really didn't sit well with me. It was that similar but that foreign at the same time. I found the oud playing very messy, and this was one of the bigger differences between the style and aesthetic of Persian music and the approach of Persian music and Arabic music. I find that in Arabic music, the notes are almost played in a very loose way. There's a lot of bending of the notes, a lot of a lot of heavy vibrato in certain places. And so my playing is a bit more structured and very defined. So I found it very difficult to play a convincing Arabic taqsim or oud playing solo when I was starting out, because the approach is very clean and definite, very clean phrasing, very clean ornaments. That's the Persian style of oud playing. So for example, let's see here. The trills that we use, let's say in Arabic style, I might do more bends like that, whereas in Persian style, we don't really do that a lot. We need to hear the note. So those are some of the differences in a surface level, some of the differences that I found with oud playing. Let's see, let me go to my notes here, see what I was meaning to talk about exactly. So yeah, drones are very important in Persian music. The rhythms are very different. In Persian music, we also have a lot of 5 and 7 rhythms. So 5 rhythms that go like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We also have a lot of 7. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or backwards. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. let's see. We also have a 10 rhythm in Persian music called, which in Arabic is called Georgiana, which they use a lot in Iraq. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 da. So we do have that rhythm too. That's one of the rhythms that we share in common. Arabic music uses a lot of 6/8 too, but not as much as Persian music. Persian music uses 6/8 virtually all the time. In Arabic music and Turkish music, you have a lot more of these longer compound rhythms that have been used since the medieval times. Those were kind of lost in Persian music for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. Yeah, they have a lot more slower 7, slower 9, and slow 10s like the Samai rhythm. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. This kind of Samai rhythm, very common in Turkish music and Arabic music. So a lot of these things add to the difference of vibe. One of the similarities I find in terms of melody with Turkish and Persian music is that the phraseology is kind of similar and the ornamentation is a little bit more similar to Persian music. There's something that I can't really describe in words, but there's something common about the phraseology, a little bit more than the phraseology between Persian music and Arabic music. However, because of the tuning system is so close between Arabic music and Persian music, there's more sonic similarities between Arabic and Persian music. But melody-wise and phraseology-wise, I find Turkish and Persian music a little bit closer, a little bit more relatable that way. Yeah, so that's something about it. But in terms of melody is very takes forms and shapes in Persian music. Like there's a lot of repetition of shapes. To give an idea of this, let's see, I want to bring up the Persian Radif. Let's see here. Okay. I'm just showing this piece of music here. This is a Persian piece of music. This is a pish daromad. I want to show you one thing from here to take note of. You see the symbol here for the half flat? It's like a triangle. It's like a triangle flag shape. That's what we use in Persian music to denote the half flat. Whereas in Arabic music, Arabic notation uses a flat with a slash in between. I can show you what that looks like in a second here. But I'm going to bring up the Radif of Persian music. The Radif is a set of old melodies that masters would teach to students, and eventually they were notated. I want to show you the main introduction to Dastgah Shur, one of the most important modes in Persian music. I want to show you this because it really shows how geometric the melodies are and how more abstract the melodies are. You can see a lot of themes kind of repeat. I'll just play this for you so you can hear how these melodies repeat. Here we go. This is basically a solo, but it introduces the main melodic idea of shur. And so you have some themes that really repeat here. And so these melodies are very, they take forms and shapes, and I interpret it that way. It's very abstract in some ways. Anyway, that's one example. I can talk about this a bit more. I can talk about this all day, this Radif. Anyway, let's get rid of this for the moment. Now I want to contrast this with a piece of Arabic music, for example. Let's see here. I'm going to show you a Taqsim from Simon Shaheen that I've transcribed. The melody is much more, let's say, dynamic. It moves. Melody in Persian music is slower to develop. And we really go deeply into the melodic themes that we create. However, in Arabic music, it's a bit more dynamic, and there's a lot of modulations. In Persian music, there are not so many modulations to different modes. Yeah, it's a bit different approach. Anyway. Played this little Taqsim in a long time. I need to work on this one a bit more, but you can kind of see how dynamic the melody is. One thing about Arabic oud and Turkish oud that doesn't occur in Persian oud is that the use of the drone is different. In solos and Taqsim, in Arabic and Turkish music, they use this technique a lot. Where they just drone on a note, down and up. Whereas in Persian music, we don't do that. We leave more silence. So the same kind of melody might end up sounding like this. And we do a lot more tremolo. Silence, no drone. So it's a bit more, I find one of the places where there are similarities between Persian music and Arabic music is the Taqsim style of Munir Bashir. Munir Bashir was an Iraqi oud player, and Iraqi music and Persian music, because of the historical context and also the borders being so close, there are some more similarities between Iraqi music and Persian music than there are with, let's say, Arabic music from Egypt and Persian music. So that's another interesting thing. I really noticed that when I first heard Munir Bashir's oud playing, I thought, this really reminds me of the way a Persian musician would play a solo or an improvisation. I'd love to get to some questions. Please hang on. Thanks so much for asking any questions you have here. Let's see what else I wanted to talk to. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted. I've hit all my notes here. I do want to go into a bit more about Turkish music and like Turkish music notation, maqams and modes, of course. But I think I touched on most of the important differences. Let's see. So let's talk about maqam and mode, for example, briefly, and then we'll get to some questions. So the modes, that we have in Persian and Arabic and Turkish music, they used to be have some commonality between them, at least in terminology. They used to call them maqam in Persian in the old medieval times. However, they don't use that term anymore. Maqam we don't really use that for our music. It's called dastgah. Dastgah means system or hand system. And so there's a system of groupings of modes, main modes. Dastgah shur means the system of shur. There's some sub modes in between there. And then there's other ones like chahargah, dastgah chahargah, dastgah segah, dastgah Humayun. What am I missing? There's dastgah rast panjgah, dastgah mahur, and we have other modes in between in all these groupings, which they've been categorized traditionally, and that's where we get the Radif, which I showed you a chunk of that I played for you. The Radif is a collection, organization of all these modes into something that you can look at and study. In brief, that's what it is. Now, in Arabic music, you have maqam. Maqam literally means a location or a place or a rank, a station. And this is located to the actual physical location of certain notes. At one point in history, especially related to the Ottoman music time, these maqam names were then associated with a place on the fingerboard. So if you ended up having maqam rast, location rast, which would be this, and you'd have the notes associated with that. Then you'd have the note name or maqam name duga, which would be the second, right after this whole tone after rast, and you'd have maqam duga, which then took on different names, and so forth, going up all the modes, all the degrees in the basic scale. So without going into that too complicatedly, the maqams are based on this, and the way that you put the maqams together can create different forms, it can create different entities, melodic entities. And that's what's happened in Turkish music a lot, where at a certain point the maqams became quite high in number, and different maqams were created as a synthesis of basic maqams. And particular ways of going through the scale degrees and developing melody in particular ways created a new maqam. And so that is something that exists in Turkish music, which is very different from Arabic music and Persian music. However, there have been some overlapping in maqam repertoire, and also new maqams that have come from Turkey, from the Ottoman Empire, into Arabic music, into Egyptian music, like maqam Hijaz Kar Kurd, for example. This is a Turkish invented or an Ottoman invented maqam that made its way into Arabic music. Maqam Farafaza, for example. This is a Ottoman maqam that was invented by Ottoman musicians and eventually became a staple in Arabic music as well, or at least some compositions in it. So there's a bit of a different approach between Arabic and Turkish music and Persian music, the way that we approach the modes and the scales and whatnot. However, there are a lot of overlapping things, but I don't want to go into it too deeply, but our terminology is different. The overall vibe of the music is just very different as well. So let me show you a little some excerpts of some Arabic music that I teach all my students. Let's see here. Okay, so you can see here right away, there's a lot of 4/4. A lot of the traditional folk music and classical music There's a lot of 4/4, 2/4. It's just there's so much of it. Later on, you do get into some 3, which does have a 6/8 feel. For example, the proper way to notate this piece would be in 6/8 because the rhythm is in 6/8 that the percussion is playing, but they write it in 3/4. Oh yeah, that brings me to another thing about difference between notation style of Arabic and Turkish music and Persian music. In Persian music, we notate everything, all the details, all the ornaments. We have symbols for every single thing that we mean to compose or mean to play. Of course, it's not important that you play it exactly. You can add your own flair and you can add your own ornamentation. But take a look at this piece, for example. This here is an ornament for tremolo. We specifically want tremolo to be played on these notes here. And then we have these ties which tell you how to play. Usually we would play this with 1 stroke, and then the tied note would be no stroke. Let's see what else we can find. So a lot of tremolo here. We've got some grace notes. This you don't see this at all in Arabic music or Turkish music very much. Sometimes in Turkish music you see it, but there's a lot of grace notes in Persian music. This one's not hardly ornamented, but you can see that the tremolo is very specific. We want tremolo on all these notes where the T is indicated. Let me find another piece of music here that can show you this a lot better. Let's see. This is music notated specifically for oud by my teacher Behruziniya. You can see this is a pish daramad, an prelude introductory piece of 6/4. Again, lots of 6/4, and you can see a lot of ornamentation. We've got this grace note here. We've got the ties tying the notes, telling you how to stroke and how to enunciate each note. You've got tremolo, and then you've got this U symbol, upside down U. This is like a hammer-on or a mordant. A mordant, we've got 2 types. One that goes to the note above, which is symbolized by this U, that the loop goes to the up, means to go to the note above. And then you have this mordant which goes to the note below, the U shape going down. So we have all these ornamentations that we use, and we're very specific. We've used a lot of grace notes. You can see this is highly in contrast to Arabic and Turkish music, where they don't write any of these indications. They don't use this typically. You see the bare bone melody, and then you're supposed to interpret it, which is a different approach. But that's one of the big differences. Like, all the ornamentation is written. See, you've got another symbol here that these are our own symbols that we've created for our notation in Persian music. We've got this. This is like a hammer-on or a muting technique that we have a specific name for. So we notate every single thing that we want to happen in the notes, and that's very different. Let me show you. Okay, let's go back to these pieces. Now, some of these ties have been written here for violin, but you can see that the bare bone melody has been notated here. Let's find another harder piece. Okay, here's the samai. You can see that, this piece written, if you go and find a recording of it, it would sound very different than the notes look like, because there's so much ornamentation added by each musician that's interpreting this piece. So it's a very different approach than Arabic and Persian music, but at the same time, the same result occurs. In Persian music, you have to have highly ornamented music. In Arabic and Turkish music, you also have highly ornamented music, and you have to put your own style into your playing. You have to make artistic decisions about how you ornament and how you interpret pieces. You don't have to follow the notes all the time. However, they're there as a guide in Persian music, but the result is the same. You have melody that's highly ornamented. It's just a different approach with notation. In Persian, the mentality is that we notate as precisely as possible, as we can be. So that's some of the differences that that I found. Let's see here. Let's get rid of this. Okay, now I want to go through some questions. If you have any questions, then I'll go. All right. Okay, let's see here what we got. It's been difficult to find the right Risha for a 61.5 centimeter specifically, even with the special pyramid low tension set. Would love if you could address that and have a suggestion. I typically used, I found the opposite actually. Easier to find string sets for 61.5 oud length. Any string set would do. It depends on what you're going for. If you could be a bit more specific on what you're going for in terms of what you want. Find the right Risha. I'm like. Are you saying that the way the attack works with your Risha? If you could be more specific about that. Risha and strings I've never really thought of that before, and really thought that like, oh, I need to use a particular Risha for these set of strings. It's more like, I think more about what oud I'm playing and how the oud sounds and which Risha sounds better for that oud. Is more the way that I look at it. For example, like a lot of the Arabic players use a really hard cow horn Risha, and that really brings out the sound a lot. So it really depends on the oud, at least in my opinion. In these different examples you're playing, what is the setting? So are you playing solo or in a larger ensemble? Typically when you play, are you solo? It always depends, you know, it really, Persian music is played solo and in an ensemble setting, and you would more or less do the same thing either way, but you want to play more full when you're playing solo, so you would add a lot more bass notes and a lot more accompaniment into your playing. When you're in a larger ensemble, you don't have to work so hard because everyone's filling everything up, so you may play a bit more sparsely, but the style stays the same. Like you have like a whole orchestra of instruments playing these rhythms. You'll have the whole orchestra play the same thing, and it creates a nice wash of sound. You may do different things. You may not have every single instrument play exactly that ornamented. You may have one instrument play like this. Bit more sparse, but in this case I'm playing solo right now, so I'm gonna play as fully as I can to create a nice wash of sound. All of the music that we have in terms of going up and down the neck, yeah, I'm just showing you examples because I'm improvising, so I'm not doing anything adventurous right now. That's why I've been staying all in here. I've just been creating melodies off the top of my head in a particular rhythm, and that's why it appears this way, that I'm not going anywhere. But you know, all the music uses the oud as far down as you can. So yeah, there's no difference there in terms of how much of the oud we use. What kind of oud? This is a Turkish oud, a Turkish-made oud for Arabic tuning and Turkish tuning. It's more of a flexible instrument. Is there such thing as a Persian oud versus a Turkish oud and an Arabic oud? Yes, there is. It's another YouTube video. That whole thing, that whole discussion. A Persian oud is an Arabic oud, is a Turkish oud, but an Arabic oud. At the same time, sometimes a Persian oud is not an Arabic oud. They have their own sound. It's not a Turkish oud. It just really depends on the maker. Right now in Iran anyway, there's a big variety of what you can find. Some makers have their own type of style, their own type of sound. So it's a whole other topic. But for Persian music, it's important. The sound is really important. Like, there's in Persian music, there's not so much of this percussive sound. We want more melodic, more sonorous sounding, more reverberation. We need more reverb and echo in our ouds. And so we like that sound. That's the sound we want. We want that sustain, because the melodies are slower to develop. So we want the sound to continue. Whereas in Arabic music, melodies are going everywhere. If you listen to a Simon Shaheen Taqsim, sorry, I'm out of tune here. This kind of thing happens, where Simon's playing so many notes, he doesn't want all the notes to reverberate so much. So there's got to be more attack and decay, fast decay on the ouds. So there's different style there too. But you can use a Turkish oud in context of Persian music. You can use an Arabic oud in context of Persian music. It's fine, and they do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. You're really going to have to experiment with your right hand, getting the strength up for the risha. If you're finding that the string tension is too much, you're going to have to do exercises to strengthen your right hand, I think. I've never felt that the tension of the strings really makes or breaks my tremolo or the risha so much. Whatever you give me, I'll play. If they're hard strings, soft strings. So I think what you need to do is do some exercises where you're really developing the strength in your right hand. I think that needs to get stronger. It's not the other way around. Doesn't matter what you give me now. Like I'll play more or less the same with a soft plastic risha or a cow horn risha. It doesn't really matter. So I think it's all in the right hand that I use different rishas for the sound that I want to create. Let's see here. Yeah, you'll really have to experiment with different strings on a specific oud and find what you like. That's definitely an important thing. If like I tried Aquila on the Aquila Sugar Reds on my Yildirim Palabiyik oud, this one, and I really didn't like how it sounded. But and now I've got Aquila lute strings on this oud, and I love how it's working out. So different strings really have an effect on the playability and the sound, especially. But yeah, you might want to just find the sound you like, and then work on your technique to make it stronger to get through that. But still, in the end, you still might find that you like lower tension versus higher tension strings. You can always get a custom string set made for lower tension. It's just you have to experiment. It takes some time to figure it out. I'm glad you found this valuable. Thanks so much. I gotta get going now. So I hope you guys liked this video and this discussion. This is my own experience with learning Persian music and then exploring Turkish music and Arabic music. And it's just my personal experience and what I've learned. Yeah, so thanks so much for joining. I hope you found it valuable. And I would love to go into this deeper, but unfortunately I don't have much time. I'd love to show you more examples of Persian music, what it looks like, sounds like, in comparison with Arabic music and Turkish music, but I gotta run. So thanks so much. If you guys have any other questions, I'm always available by email, and I'd love to chat with you about stuff if I have time. Yeah. So thanks so much. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend or evening, and we'll see you in the next YouTube Live or in the next YouTube video. Thanks. Bye.